That was appalling. No expertise, no finesse, nothing. We have a real expert. As Sarah said, we have Dr. Chris Andrews from London Zoo with us. Good morning once again. And slippery, slimy frogs and toads.
Sort of, I suppose, yes.
Are they popular pets? I mean, because they're not known for their sort of lively personalities, are they?
No, they're interesting, though, and people are keeping them, but obviously you've got to keep them properly, and some people maybe go a bit astray at times.
Right. Well, you've brought a whole selection of frogs and toads in this morning. Now, round about this time of year is the time of year when we start seeing frog spawn about, isn't it?
That's right.
You've got some over here.
Any time now, lumps of frog spawn will start appearing in local ponds and canals, and then probably a few weeks later you'll get the long trains of toad spawn, which looks very different.
Now, people do take it home, don't they?
Well, you can take it home and rear the tadpoles, but it's a bit difficult. You need quite a large tank and a fairly small number of tadpoles. And what you're better off doing is, if you've got a garden pond, introduce a little bit of spawn to that every year, or even dig a pond, especially for the tadpoles.
I was going to ask you what sort of environment they like. I mean, where are you likely to find frog spawn? I mean, are you supposed to find it in water? What sort of area?
Nice, quiet, still ponds, marshes, swamps, canals, and anywhere where there's a fair bit of rough country where they can hide at night, the adults, obviously.
Is it true that sort of frogs return to the same pond?
They're said to be able to migrate several miles back to the same pond to mate every year, yes.
Look. What are the two in here? You've got a selection, haven't you?
In there, we've got the larger one of the two is the frog, and it's got much slimier, wet skin, whereas the more warty, rough one is the toad, so they're quite obviously different.
So this one at the front's the toad, or the one at the back?
The one at the back's the frog, and the one that's a bit shy at the moment facing us is the toad.
Right. Well, what is the best sort of environment at home to keep them in?
You need a large tank, maybe 2 or 3 feet long, nice and damp, not too warm, because they don't like it too warm, our local species, and then they feed on all kinds of insects, grubs and so forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that was my biggest problem when I used to keep frogs. I used to get them home and think, I don't know what they eat.
Well, that's right, it's live food, which again can be a problem, so if you're not certain of how to keep them, the best thing is to leave them in the wild where they'll do very nicely.
Will the aquarium shops help you out?
Well, you can get some mainly tropical species from aquarium shops now, because many of our local amphibians are actually protected and you can't buy them. And there are some, like these giant bullfrog tadpoles here, that you can buy from local pet shops.
Yeah, now these fascinate me, these
Well, you can see they're a bit bigger than your average tadpole.
Oh, they're
and in fact, they'll turn into a frog that's maybe 6 or 8 inches long.
Gosh.
And at that size, they need an awful lot of looking after.
Yes, you've got them in water too, haven't you?
Yes, of course.
Right. Well, OK. Some of you may have seen John Craven's news round a little while ago, and you might have seen this report, an ingenious way of looking after frogs on our roads.
Any day now, 10,000 toads will come out of these woods near Marlow in Buckinghamshire, where they've been hibernating all winter. They'll cross the road and head for this pond, which is where they come every summer to breed and find food. This year, they'll find something new on their journey. First, they'll come up against a plastic fence. The fence guides them to Britain's first ever toad tunnel. The tunnel is 20 metres long and allows the toads to crawl safely under the traffic on the road above. The toad tunnel is basically a special drain sunk into the road. It has ventilation holes to keep the temperature in the tunnel the same as outside and to allow rain in. Toads like the damp.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Well, they were toads. This is a toad as well, isn't it?
A bit bigger than your average toad, though.
That
this is a South American giant toad.
Good
Probably
heavens.
full grown. It might get a little bit bigger.
Do they have any predators?
They do, but also they've got a very effective defence mechanism. Just behind the eyes here, there are poison glands, which if something was to bite it, it would release a very acid and unpleasant tasting poison, which would actually make the predator drop them and leave them alone.
Yeah,
There's enough poison there to kill a dog or maybe even a human.
I was going to say, our dog Holly at home sort of had a go at a toad and was sort of ill for 2 days.
That's right. They usually drop them and leave them alone, so it's quite effective.
Are there is there differences between frogs and toads?
Well, you only ever get a toad in the hole and a frog in your throat. but really,
You've been practising that, haven't you?
I have, to be honest, I have. But the toad's got a very dry, not a wet skin, a dry skin and quite warty, whereas the frogs we saw have got a much more slimy. They're what you imagine amphibians to be like, whereas the toad is quite dry and almost cuddly, perhaps. I don't know.
Other sort of, well, I don't know. In fact, it's very wet. To me, it feels very wet and slimy. Shall I put him back?
Oh, he's getting a bit active.
Yeah, I don't want to disturb him too much. He seems quite happy in there. Right, well, for people who want to know a little bit more about frogs
Yes.
and toads, we have a Superstore fact sheet, don't we?
That's right. If any, and just write into Saturday Superstore, London W128QT, and mark it Frogs and Toads.
Okay, there's
And a full
the
sheet
address.
with all the details.
Frogs and Toads, Saturday Superstore, BBC Television, London W128QT. That's for our fact sheet. And please, please, please send a self-addressed envelope and make sure you put a stamp on it, otherwise you won't get one. Chris, you've got a bargain for us.
Yes, indeed, yes. What we got is some bits and pieces from London Zoo, some zoo tickets and a guide so you can come to see us if you've got the time.
Lovely.
A zoo T-shirt, which is lovely and colourful, I think just right for the spring. We've got some children's books which are connected to toads and frogs, which are quite interesting. If you are going to keep them, we've got an excellent book on keeping toads and other amphibians and reptiles. And then also a really superb book on how they live in the wild, their biology, which has got some marvellous
Oh, we've got so much stuff there.
colour illustrations in it as well.
Hey, thank you. We need a question from you.
Right, well the question is, in the play Toad of Toad Hall, in what disguise did Toad dress up to escape?
Good question. Do you want to repeat it just in case people didn't hear it?
In the play Toad of Toad Hall, what disguise did Toad dress up in to escape?
I know that. I was in it.
Were you?
Yes.
What part did you play?
We escaped from prison, didn't we?
Yes, but what disguise was he wearing?
No, can't tell you. Answer the postcard Superstore, BBC Television, London W12 8QT. And before you go, in fact, I think we have a question from our coffee shop. Vicky's here.
Yes, we've been running up the stairs. Vicky, wanted to catch you while you were here. Can I
Come
ask
over
you
here,
a
Vicky.
question? Come over there.
What's your question?
Do frogs and toads hibernate?
In this country, they all hibernate from about October through to about this time of the year. Then they all wake up and then go to ponds to lay spawn, as we said. So yes, they do. But the tropical ones don't. So if you keep those at home, you've got to keep them warm the whole year round.
There you go. Right, well, we'll get back to our Meccano then.
Thank you very
actually.
much.
OK.
But at London Zoo, I mean, do you actually release your frogs back into the wild?
We've got a
Yeah,
breeding
you do.
programme at the moment for crested newts, which are quite a severely endangered amphibian in the British Isles. And then we also breed some more tropical species, so we don't have to keep bringing them in from the wild. We can become more self-contained, which is the sort of thing zoos are doing more and more these days, obviously, as wild animals become rarer.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you very much for bringing your friends in this morning. We do
Pleasure.
appreciate it. Chris,
See you.
cheers. OK, you can sit back with me and enjoy this, because right now it's the grand final of the Saturday Superstore Search for a Superstar for 1987.